All right, welcome in on a Monday, January 31st, 33 Favorite Daily. Week 2 officially underway here. Nate Steinbach, Ryan Wilkes in our producer's chair. Go around the horn real quick. In our co-host chair, we are welcoming back Julian Ferdman, Colbert and Bergstrom on call screener duties today. And then later on in the show, around, what we say, about 2 o'clock, right after break, we're going to have Colby Talley bringing you the special segment of the day. So a lot to get into. Very exciting sports weekend. Obviously, with Saturday, had a big win for Virginia Tech men's basketball. And then on Sunday, we had some obviously exciting NFL action. But today, I think I really do want to focus more on Saturday and, what that win meant. I think I want to start off the show. I want to go around the horn real quick, get everyone's quick thoughts on it. And then at around 1:45, I think I want to, give you guys a nice little comp. I spent a lot of Saturday night thinking about that win and trying to bring something to the table that I think would be interesting to discuss here on Monday. So if at all you have any thoughts, hit us up in the YouTube live chat or text us at 540-216-2231. So with that being said, before we get into it, I want to just toss it around. How's everyone doing today? Ryan in the producer's chair, how are you? Welcome back, week 2. Let's get it going.
And I'm doing good. I just want to thank everybody that listened and everyone that was involved in that first week of 3304 Daily. I can't thank you guys enough. We're going to keep this thing rolling.
No doubt, no doubt. Julian, you're back, week 2. You were our co-host last week. You're in the same role. So yeah, should be pretty similar waters for you. How was your weekend?
Great. We had a great win on Saturday. It was fun to watch that and enjoyed some football on Sunday. So yeah, it was a good weekend.
Colby, welcome back to the program. You're in the screener chair today. How you been? How was your weekend?
Certainly been enjoying it. A lovely weekend of sports, obviously VT basketball and the championship weekend. Very fun to watch it, and obviously there's gonna be a lot to talk about this week. So ready to get that stuff underway.
No doubt, Colby. You are our segment creator. You are our fun, ringmaster today. So, do you have anything in store for us? 2 o'clock, or are you gonna leave us all in suspense on the edge of our seat?
Well, I'm not really sure, but we're going to be discussing the Super Bowl. We have a Super Bowl matchup to discuss. Finally, that'll be tons of fun to talk about later on.
All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit of football later in the show, and then obviously all week. We got to talk about those conference championship matchups, and then as we get closer and closer to the big game, we are going to be talking about Super Bowl and a lot of football, just because it's easy to talk about and it's the thing to talk about. So once again, hit us up in the YouTube live chat, or if you have any thoughts of your own, text us in at 540-216-2231. All right, want to start out on Saturday. Got to start out with the big win for Tech men's basketball over Florida State. Obviously, Ryan on Friday gave us that stat. They haven't won in Tallahassee since 1990. Insane metric. Everyone on Friday was, feeling the same way. Was feeling that this was going to be a game. I thought they were going to lose. I didn't know if I was thinking, blowout or anything like that, but I thought it was just going to be a similar tale of they fight really hard. It just comes down to not being able to close the game out. And really, that just flipped. And this was the first time this season when you're going up against a quality opponent where, there's less than 10 minutes left in the game. And I think it was about around the 7-minute mark. This was a 2-point game. And then Tech goes on a 14-0 run. That doesn't happen for them. That happens to them. That's how this season has gone. And obviously the story of the day, and I'm going to keep my thoughts on this brief because I want to go around the horn and then obviously, get into what my comp is for this team, to maybe inspire some hope for the rest of the season when it's been pretty dry and disappointing. Obviously the story of the game is, holy Lord, the threes. That was probably one of the best, probably top 3 3-point shooting performances by a college basketball team I've ever seen. And it obviously comes from, the 2 guys that were the story of the day, Hunter Couture and Sean Padula off the bench. To me, Padula is the story because Couture's game on Saturday is just a higher volume of what I honestly expect from him in this offense. Hunter Couture, to me, is the Klay Thompson guy that just kind of finds himself open in an offense, is the perfect, off-ball guard. And, he has others create for him, but when he is moving, when he's catching and shooting, that's when he's at his best. And they just were not able to stop him, and he had an amazing game. But to me, yes, his efficiency was incredible, and as of now, he's like the second best 3-point shooter in the country when it comes to percentages. He's shooting a tick under 50%. I mean, that's ridiculous efficiency. But, you know, every game, I want the offense to include Hunter Couture going like 4 of 5 from 3 every night. You know, maybe not that, but, you know, him shooting between 5 and 7 threes each night and hitting between 3 and 5. You know, that's the kind of game that I'm expecting from him, and it was just incredible volume and incredible efficiency, and well, I think it was tied for Tech record, 9 threes in a game. Sensational play from him. But the story really comes down to Padula because it's all about his response. That was, again, Ryan said it, 1990. That's 32 years. That's Cincinnati Bengals territory, where you go into that area, and that's a game you're not supposed to win. You're having a bad stretch of games. You're not doing well in the ACC, and you're true freshman. You know, you haven't gotten much playing time. You've seen an expanded role, and you got to make the most of it, and you got to make plays. And he starts the game off 5 of 5. He's just, you know, quieting that crowd. He's showing off some swagger. I mean, dude was making moves. He was creating his own shot. It wasn't just like it was Couture's, you know, kind of insane catch and shoot ability. Dude was crossing people over. He was breaking somebody's ankles. The defender that he had on him for the last 2 possessions, where he crossed him over, hit him with a step back, and then just stood there for a half second before he shot the 3, made sure he was in rhythm. That was cool. And then at the end of the half, when he was, I think, like 5 of 6, you know, just crosses him over, gets into the lane, and goes up. That's something we talk about all season. They don't have guys that have been able to get to the paint effectively, and if Padula's showing us that, well then, you know, why not have him play more? So he made the most out of all of his opportunities, and he played an incredible game. And again, too, think about the second half. He scored 15 points in the first half, and then in the second half, he doesn't start. And then he comes back in the game, and the lead that they had, mostly thanks to him in the first half, it's gone. As soon as the second half starts, Florida State goes on a small run and basically knocks the game right back up. And then he comes back in, and him and Couture down the stretch, you know, help lead this team to the 13-point victory. So just the overall response from him in a big spot was incredible. And I think from here on out, I think there is serious discussion to be had that he should be the starter. And I'm interested to see what Wednesday night pulls out. But I honestly would not hate seeing lineups with both him and Storm Murphy in the game, because I think Mike Young's offenses are better when you have 2 guys that can handle the ball. And so far, it seems like they've just kind of been one-offing each other. You know, one guy's in the game, one guy's on the bench, and they're both just running the offense, and it's really them holding the ball and making the plays happen through them. And that was one thing that I saw, too. That was just a quick negative before I throw it to someone else. There were a lot of instances in that game where I see the point guard, whether it's Murphy, whether it's Padula, they're just standing at the top of the 3-point line waiting for some motion to happen, and then you blink, and then there's 13 seconds left on the clock, and they haven't passed the ball, and they got to force something. So that was one thing I saw in that game, and again, they got away with a lot of it because they were just shooting the lights out, but, you know, it was a great win, and it's one they needed, and you're halfway through the ACC at this point, and you're 3-7, so you got 10 games left to go, and to me, the main takeaway from this game, and I think some of the guys here are going to echo it, that has to be their game where they say, hey, we're hot now. It's time to make a run. You know, we've been disappointing. We're barely above 500 overall. That's the game where, you know, you look back on the season after the postseason's over, whatever their postseason play is, it's like you pinpoint this game. That's the game where you say, hey, they got hot. Maybe they don't shoot like that again, but in terms of just winning games, that's the game where you point to them being the stereotypical team that got hot at the right time. So I want to throw it around. I'll start with Julian, our co-host for the day. And then we can go to Ryan. We can go to the other guys behind the glass for some of their quick thoughts if they have any other details to add. And then I want to get in my comp, and we're off and rolling here on a Monday.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. So I thought what really stuck out to me the most was after Keve Aluma got into foul trouble in the second half, instead of going to John Ojiako, Mike Young went with Justin Mutz at the 5, and he's really undersized. You know, he's only 6'7", 6'8". But he really held his own against a much bigger Florida State team, right? Because they had the 7'4" center off the bench.
They've got 4 7-footers on their roster,
Yep.
and I think I mean, I'm going back to a post that our boy D Cunha made. Tech, in the last 10 years has had 1 7-footer on all of their rosters combined. Florida State's rolling out with 4 of them. So yeah, like you said, completely undersized.
Yeah. So I thought what he did was he provided a lot of versatility to that closing lineup down the stretch, right? And with this extra spacing, because Mutz is a legitimate threat from behind the arc, it was a lot easier for Sean Padula and Darius Maddox and Hunter Couture to get into the paint in that second half. And you saw when Tech got pressure on the rim, they were able to spray it out to their shooters. And obviously Hunter Couture was on another level of hot. He was just a flamethrower in that second half. Um, and I really think that that's a formula that Tech can go to, especially against more talented teams. You need to sort of commit to a gimmick if you don't have the same type of resources as a Duke, as a Florida State when it comes to just overall guys on the roster who are going to go to the NBA. I mean, you look at Florida State; they got that John Butler. They've got some serious talent on that roster, and Tech they need to commit to a certain play style. And I really think they found something with Justin Mutz at the 5. And he can just connect all the dots, whether it's on defense, boxing out, or on offense, getting the ball in the middle of the floor and attacking the rim or running a pick and roll. You just have a lot of stuff that gets opened up when you have a guy who can really shoot it and pass and dribble at the 5, like Justin Mutz.
No, and I like what you're talking about with Mutz, playing the 5, like you said, when Aluma was in foul trouble, only scored 4 on the day. The front court as a whole didn't have as much production as I think Young wants them to. I mean, he wants the offense to run through them most of the time, but even with that, like the size thing was definitely still a factor in this game. Had Tech not shot the lights out, they got away with, once again, some rather suspect interior defense. I think at one point ESPN threw up a graphic of Tech had like 39 points from 3, and Florida State had like 38 points in the paint. So it was really that battle of, okay, Florida State can attack the paint, but you're going to run away because you're making all these threes down the line. So when it comes to closing out games, if that's their strategy, hey, hopefully it works. But, interior defense still a theme of that game. But no, being able to lose Aluma to foul trouble a lot in this game, you only played 24 minutes. No, Mutz played a big role in all that versatility, like you were saying. All right, Ryan, I'll throw to you, and then could you also talk a little bit, too, about the bench as a whole? Because we saw some big bench minutes. I mean, like you said, we didn't see John Ojiako, but obviously you saw Padula a lot. But we're seeing both Maddox and Gasson getting over 20 minutes a game here.
Yeah, I just want to touch a little bit on what Julian was talking about with Mutz at the 5. Florida State's always been a team that recruits size. They're big at every position. They always have big physical guards. They have very big post players. And that's always going to be true. Leonard Hamilton will always recruit that way. But Dan, I like your comparison, Hunter Couture and Klay Thompson. I think they're very, very similar players. I think Hunter Couture in the offseason most likely will grow in his ability to score off the dribble and get to the basket. We've seen his ability to do that in games like UVA last year, getting to the rim and throwing one down over Big J Huff. So Hunter Couture has that ability, but the bench, Sean Padula, that's obviously his best game as a Virginia Tech Hokie. But he proved to us that he's more than a catch and shoot. He's more than just a 3-point shooter. I mean, the cross he had near that end of the first half there, he kind of left the defender. He kind of moved the defender into the lane and then got back out to the top of the key and knocked down the shot. I mean, he was unconscious from 3 in the first half. And obviously Darius Maddox is a guy that Tech fans have seen as a shot maker. Not his best game, but 23 minutes, and Gasson 27 minutes. So the bench was huge. Obviously, Aluma got in foul trouble, and this was far from his best game. Only 4 points, Naheem Lee only 5. So some other contributors had to step up, but this is what Virginia Tech can be. This is what Hokie fans expected Virginia Tech to be. Now, the inside presence of Florida State, I mean, Florida State still scored 72 points. I wouldn't say it was a defensive masterclass by Virginia Tech in any sense of the word, but Virginia Tech did enough offensively, and that's what they're capable of doing offensively in games like this. They really hit their shots, and they were able to close out the basketball game. That's been a big problem with this team. I mean, you see Miami going an 8-0 run to close out Virginia Tech last week in a heartbreaker. And Virginia Tech just this season has not shown the ability to close out basketball games. And this was a through and through great complete performance. Obviously, some complaints can be made defensively. A 41-point second half for Florida State. That's kind of a crooked number up there on the scoreboard. So there's still some stuff to work on. And Georgia Tech's going to prove to be a big test. But Dan, like you said, this is the game in the Hokie season where you look back and it's likely, if Virginia Tech goes on a run, this is certainly the turning point for them. I mean, this is you go into a winnable stretch of ACC games. You've got Georgia Tech, who's bottom tier ACC. You've got back-to-back against Pittsburgh, which is quite unusual, but due to COVID, that's a world we're living in. So Tech will travel to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh will travel back to Virginia Tech 2 days later. And then Syracuse, Virginia, North Carolina, all these games at home. This is a golden opportunity for Virginia Tech to get right back in the NCAA tournament conversation and near 500 in the ACC. I mean, these are a lot of winnable games coming up. So, Dan, like you said, I do believe if there's a turning point, this is the one here.
You're stealing words right out of my mouth because I wanted to point to the schedule. And when I get into my comp here in a minute, I'll throw to Colby and Colby for any of their final closing thoughts before I do. But, I mean, like you said, look at the schedule. This schedule, for a team with the expectations that we have of them and with the performance we just saw them have, I mean, Georgia Tech twice, Pitt twice, Syracuse, you got Louisville, Clemson. All 7 of those games, none of those opponents are world breakers to me. You've got 3, I would say, quote-unquote top-tier ACC opponents left. You've got UVA, UNC, Miami, all of whom you've played down to the wire. You take one of those games, I see no reason why this team, if they get on the stretch, and this is really the hot streak start, I see no reason why they can't win 7 of those games, get to 10-10 in conference play, get at least a first round bye in the conference tournament, get to I think it'd be the second round. It's not quite the quarterfinals because that'd be a double bye, but you get to the second round, you play a game, you win a game or 2 in the tournament, and who knows? You're on the bubble. You let the net rankings decide your fate. You let KenPom decide your fate. But no, I really like that you mentioned that there. All right, Colby and Colby, anything you guys want to throw in here that has not already been said, or maybe you just want to echo something, and then I want to get in my comp, get what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a huge game, definitely one that a lot of us didn't quite expect. And obviously, with both you and Ryan pointing towards the schedule, it is definitely the biggest thing here to look at. It's the biggest proponent of Virginia Tech men's basketball possibly being able to find success. As you said, really, Virginia, North Carolina, and Miami are the few big challenges left for this team. And 2 of those 3 games are at home. In the other one, against Miami, they lost on a buzzer beater. But then otherwise, I mean, Louisville, I believe, is without a head coach. I think that happened a few weeks ago. So though you would expect them to be stronger, particularly with how they started off in ACC play, they may not be. Clemson has been very much give or take. And then Syracuse, Pittsburgh, and Georgia Tech all haven't been that special, to be honest. Georgia Tech at the bottom of the ACC, and Syracuse has had a lot of games where they just really haven't impressed compared to what they normally are. So this is certainly the opportunity for Virginia Tech to be able to go on a run and be able to buy themselves back in the NCAA tournament. But I really wanted to go here and specifically point out, which I don't know if people are going to be sold on. I think that Mike Young and Virginia Tech really need to look towards Hunter Couture to be the leading man for this team, either alongside Keve or possibly ahead of Keve. And the reason I specifically say that is that Hunter Couture has not only been good throughout this season, not many times that he's went single digit, but particularly over the past 4 games, he's been on a pretty strong run. He has not hit under 50% from the 3-point range over the past 4 games. He's also not gone, of course, under double digit over the past 4 games. Hunter Couture is someone that ever since my freshman year has kind of been he's been a workhorse kind of on offense and defense. And he really showed against FSU, though. Let's all be honest, you're really not going to have a 9 for 11 night from beyond the arc every single night. But that night just kind of really showed what Hunter can bring to the team, something that you definitely started off by saying, Dan. So I think that's really, personally, I think that's what Virginia Tech needs to go to and look to try to get Hunter some more shots, because I think he's someone that not only can go from behind the arc and actually has been really good with it recently, but then on top of that, he's also someone that's confident enough to drive and go for 2-point shots and whatnot as well.
I like that you're bringing that angle to it. And yeah, hopefully he can develop that part of his game. Like Ryan was saying, he's shown some ability with that before. I will say, personally, if they go out and lose Wednesday night to Georgia Tech, I think a lot of this gets thrown out the window because then again, it's like that momentum to me just comes to a screeching halt, hits a brick wall. So I think that it sounds crazy to say Georgia Tech is a must-win game, but I think it is. Colby, do you have anything real quick to add here before we move along? We're humming along here on a Monday.
Yeah, I just wanted to note real quickly that I think Julian hit the nail on the head when he said that this team needs to play into a gimmick, because I've seen from these last two games, I was there for the Miami game and I watched the Florida State game, that this team, like, that's the second straight game that this team has shot well over 50% from three. And I think that that's where Tech's strengths lie. And you look at the ACC, how many threes Tech has made compared to how many they've attempted. They're first in the ACC for makes, sixth ranked in attempts. And I think that needs to change. Those attempts need to go up. This team needs to play into its strengths. Specific also because they're just not a team that's going to win in the post. Like Mutz is 6'7", Aluma tries his best, but he just doesn't have the height to compete with 7-footers that Florida State has, like when getting for rebounds and stuff. So I feel like this team needs to just focus more on getting people open on the perimeter and let that be their identity.
I will say real quickly, I'm pretty sure the same conversation was being had a couple weeks ago when Virginia Tech went back-to-back wins over Notre Dame and NC State, proceeded to lose to Boston College, North Carolina, Miami back-to-back-to-back. So as much optimism as we have right now, this conversation was had a couple weeks ago. So hopefully the Hokies are able to really put it together this time and create a run here down the stretch.
So you might consider yourself to still be in a bit of a position of doubt right now.
I wouldn't say doubt. I'd just say, yeah, the Florida State win was great. I mean, first win there in 30 years. And maybe that's what juices this team up into going down the stretch, really seeing, what they're capable of in a game like this. I'm sure Mike Young after the game said, guys, this is what we can do. So Julian said in the chat, cautious optimism. That's exactly what I have right now. There's definitely optimism to be had after watching a game like that. But at the same time, you can't go back to last week and regress in 3 straight games.
Okay, so I like that you guys are using cautious optimism. And honestly, I might be on the more optimistic side. And I'm not a very optimistic person when it comes to any of my teams, so this might be a bit of a shock. But do you think that I think that what I'm about to bring to the table here could maybe bring you guys a little bit more towards my side? Now, once again, Wednesday night, they go out, they lose, they lay an egg. A lot of this goes out the window. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to name the team, but I'm going to give you guys a comp to another college basketball program. And I'm just going to list out some numbers, so bear with me for a second. It's going to get pretty analytical for the next couple of minutes. If you guys have any thoughts on this, once again, chime in, YouTube Live, 540-216-2231. Any thoughts on the win against Florida State? So here we go. Let's just start out here. Right now, we're at the end of January. And you know what? I do need to pull this back up. But at the end of January, for this other program, this is where they were in KenPom in their respective season and the new net rankings. Currently, at that point in their season, they were ranked 126th in KenPom, and they were ranked 147th in the net rankings. Right now, for Tech, they are currently 53rd in net rankings, and last time I checked, they were 41st in KenPom. Neither of these teams were on the bubble at this point in the season, and I'm using Joe Lunardi. By the end of this other team's season, by the end of their conference tournament, they were not on the bubble. They were 106th in net ranking, so considerably worse than where we expect Virginia Tech to be, and they were between 93rd and 103rd in KenPom. Again, Virginia Tech will likely be 50 spots ahead of them. They will likely be in the top 50 in KenPom by the time the ACC tournament is over, if they continue this play that they're on, and they will be vastly superior in the net rankings that the NCAA uses to help predict the tournament, to help seed the tournament. Here is where Virginia Tech is now compared to, I could only find the KenPom stats for this team at the end of the season. Virginia Tech is a slightly better offensive team metrically and slightly worse defensively. But both of these teams, very slow pace of play. They were both in the bottom 50 in the country, both in the 300 range on KenPom. These are all KenPom stats. Virginia Tech is a much better shooting team, much better effective field goal percentage. They're top 20 in the nation. This team was bottom 100. And then defensively, they're also slightly better at limiting effective field goal percentage. Virginia Tech has better turnover percentage on offense, and they force a higher turnover percentage on defense. Virginia Tech is better at limiting offensive rebounds, but they can't grab their own compared to this other program. Virginia Tech is much worse, which we see all the time. They don't get as many free throw attempts compared to how many shots they put up, but they also limit more free throws to how many shots they let up. So they're not going to the line. Their opponents aren't really shooting that many free throw shots. Obviously, take away that UNC game from a couple weeks ago. We're just looking at overall data. Virginia Tech, overall, much, much better shooting team. Virginia Tech right now is one of the top 5 best three-point shooting teams across the board. And again, effective field goal percentage, they're really, really good. This other team was much better at blocking shots and not letting their shots get blocked. I think that has to do with the size, because this team was slightly bigger. But Virginia Tech is better at non-steal turnovers. That means when they're not getting the ball stolen, they're not turning it over. They're not, having bad passes. They're not throwing it out of bounds. They're not traveling. They're not doing that kind of stuff. They're not really making the boneheaded plays. But they do get it stolen more than this other team. And overall, Virginia Tech's strength of schedule is slightly weaker. I know that what I just threw out there was a lot of numbers. None of them really had to do with anything about this other program at all. But I want to throw around the room, and I want to just throw out a team that you think I could be comping Virginia Tech to right now. I will give you a hint. It's a team that made a Cinderella run. I'm not going to give you the year, but it's a Cinderella run team that I think we could potentially comp Virginia Tech to. So I want to start with Julian. Do you have a recent Cinderella program that you can think of that I might be comparing Tech to right now at this point in their season?
How about Loyola Chicago, their first run?
All right, so he's going with Sister Jean. All right, Ryan, let's go behind the glass. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on our potential Cinderella comp here for Tech?
I want to say this sounds like a Syracuse team to me. I want to say the 2016 Syracuse team that upset Virginia and went to the Final Four.
Okay, so he's staying in conference. All right, let's go over to Colby. Colby, do you have any thoughts on who I might be thinking of right here?
Me and Ryan are on the same wavelength. I went Syracuse. I remember watching that game in 2016, the Elite Eight, and I mean they had the same pitfalls as Tech almost.
All right, so we got 2 votes for Boeheim. We got 1 for Sister Jean herself. Colburn, do you have a final guess?
Well, I mostly hung my hat on the Cinderella stuff, and the only 2 teams I could really think of. My first one was UConn. That made more sense to me, but really the bigger one was Wichita State. But I don't know if those really fully fit with size.
Okay, so I think maybe Cinderella was the wrong term, because I think we've got a lot of overshooting when it comes to where this team ended up. I think this is a Cinderella run. They didn't get to the Final Four, and it's a lot more recent than any of the teams you guys mentioned. The team I'm bringing up is from last year, and it's Oregon State. Oregon State, at that point in their season, was 500 in the Pac-12. They were 5-5, so they're actually in a better position than Tech is now, because Tech's 3-7. And they finished out the season 10-10 in the Pac-12. Now they were not on the bubble. They had to win their conference tournament to even get consideration to get in. They had to get the auto bid. To me, I think Tech is in a better position metrically, because those metrics play into seeding now. And I think if Tech, and I think the ACC is barely better as a conference this year than the Pac-12. Or the Pac-12 they're on the same level. But I do think the ACC garners a little bit more respect overall than the Pac-12 from the committee. So say Tech goes on a nice stretch here. And let's just say I'm going to go with, I expect them to go 7-3. And KenPom has them around the same projection as well. Has them going around 500, finishing at about 18-13. If they get to that mark, and let's say you win 1. Let's say, let's just say they win 2 games in the ACC tournament. They get to the semifinals. Might sound like a long shot now, but they would have, a month's worth of momentum. They would have a 7-3 stretch in their last 10, which is really good. You pick up a quality win here or there. You got a couple, I think, top 100, top 50 games, coming up, whether they're on the road, whether they're at home. But you pick up some wins there, and I think you can get firmly on the bubble, if not firmly in the tournament. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. point to Ryan and point to Julian, because you guys are coming out here as cautiously optimistic. When I bring out all the metrics and you look at the strength of schedule, does this give you a little bit more optimism, a little bit more hope when I comp them to a team that just a year ago made an Elite 8 run? I'm not saying this team is an Elite 8 team, even though I think, before the season we all thought, hey, maybe this team is a dark horse Final Four candidate. Does this give you at least a little bit more hope for this season? If the season ends tomorrow, we look back on it, we look at it as a failure, as just expectations, completely missed. But when I give you all of those numbers, do you think I'm onto something here? Ryan, do you want to take a break, and do you want to come back and give our answers on the other side of the break? All right, we're going to do that. So I want you guys to collect your thoughts for the next 3 minutes or so. I kind of threw a lot of numbers out at you. But if you guys, listening, have any thoughts on the matter, once again, YouTube live chat, 540-216-2231. We're going to take a break, we're going to come back, and we're going to let them answer what I just presented there. So 3304 Daily, we'll be right back.
Good evening and welcome inside the Dean Smith Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it will be Caleb Love passing it over to Manick. Trying to find Black in the paint, over to Baycott. He goes up and slams it down, returning Aluma's favor. Love back to Baycott, guarded by Aluma. All the way across to find a wide open Leaky Black for three, and the first three-pointer of the night belongs to the Tar Heels. We'll go back to Maddox, through the hands over to Mutz. Mutz fakes a mid-range jumper to Aluma for three, and Keve Aluma gets the three-point basket. Pass goes back out to Keve Aluma. Nahiem Alleyne for three. That one is good, and we're tied at 19 with 8:15 to play in the first half. Padula misplaces the ball, and RJ Davis scrambles up the floor. Layup is no good. Defensive rebound by Alleyne, hands it off to Padula, who's coming up the left wing. Coast to coast will find Aluma, who gets the layup, and the Hokies have the lead. Murphy finds Couture. Quick fire three. That one is good. Big shot for Couture, 35-33.
Now inside to Mutz. Mutz backing down Manick once again. Mutz tries to go up and over Manick. Great defense by the Oklahoma graduate transfer, and up the floor we go. RJ Davis, coast to coast, lays it up and in, plus the foul against Keve Aluma, and RJ Davis reignites this Tar Heel crowd. Caleb Love kicks it out. Leaky Black, right corner three, got it. Leaky Black knocks it down, and he's been lethal from downtown so far tonight. Storm Murphy on the right wing for the Hokies. Dish inside, Justin Mutz slams it down with the right hand, silencing the Carolina crowd. Davis going at Couture, crossover at the ACC logo, kicks it out. Caleb Love thought about a three, goes at the chest of Nahiem Alleyne. Kick out, left wing three for Manick, splashes the net, and gets the crowd right back into it. Go time if you're the Hokies. Kick to Manick, corner three in the air, knocks it down! That could be the dagger! Brady Manick from beyond the arc, and he's a maniac! Caleb Love gives it off to Manick, he's been hot. Corner three, RJ Davis, wide open, and he drills it from downtown! And if that's not the dagger, I don't know what will be.
One of the top teams in the ACC makes the trip up the East Coast to Blacksburg to face off with the Virginia Tech Hokies. It's Miami and Virginia Tech from Castle Coliseum. Top of the key, finds Couture left arc, right back Aluma, straightaway three, knocks it down. Padula takes it for Virginia Tech. Back out Maddox, right wing three, swish. On the corner, takes one step and rattles it down from the left wing. Darius Maddox has his second three. 60 seconds to go. Couture unleashes the left wing three, and he got it. Hunter Couture's second triple of the day, and the Hokies back within three. 50 seconds to go in this first half.
Hunter Couture with the ball, finds a wide open Keve Aluma, drives inside, gets the foul, and the bucket. Mutz gets the board again, swings it over to Aluma, who throws it down. Then Mutz, who finds Couture, a 4-point play opportunity. Finds Darius Maggs on that right wing. Mutz all alone in the corner, and that one's good. Justin Mutz amping up this crowd in Castle Coliseum. Three on the shot clock. McGusty step back triple, cold as ice. Feels a little bit of pressure, bounce pass into Mutz, who finds a wide open Hunter Couture. Nothing but nylon. McGusty drives, cuts inside, wide open Moore. It's an offensive foul. Pass inside to Charlie Moore from half court. Off the glass and in! Miami wins it on a half-court buzzer beater prayer. And the Hurricanes escape Blacksburg with a 78-75 victory. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, indeed. All right, everyone, welcome back to 30 of War Daily. Man, never gonna get tired of that Andy Lister call. All right, so we're back from break. Julian, Ryan, I want to start out with you guys, and I want to make sure we can get through this, in about 10 minutes or so, because I want to make sure Colby has time for his segment to wrap up the day. All right, so I threw a lot of numbers your way. I want to start with my co-host here for the day. What are your thoughts? Am I completely, off the rails here, or do I have something here?
Well, in terms of just catching lightning in a bottle, which is what I think Oregon State did last year. Obviously, I was really impressed with their performance against Oklahoma State in that tournament. Facing a guy like Cade Cunningham, who was viewed as a generational prospect, and just thoroughly outplaying them from start to finish. I thought that was really impressive. To me, I think this team is very different personnel-wise. When you look at the strength of their team, Oregon State had I forget his name, but they had a really big 7-footer who really imposed his will throughout that whole tournament. And I don't think the strength of our team lies in the paint. So really, I think we're going to have to just stay hot from the perimeter. I think we're going to have to continue to play sound defense, which we have been really this season. But yeah, I think there should be reason for hope. I think this team can catch lightning in a bottle when you just look at how many, like Hunter Couture can just go nuclear like he did on Saturday, right? And obviously Padula, we have a couple guys who can go get a bucket when we need to from the perimeter. I guess it really just comes down to one, how good can our bench be, obviously, and then two, Couture and Mutz really, I think, need to play their best basketball for this next month. They need to be our best players because they have been really for this season. They've been our most consistent guys, in my opinion. So that's really what it boils down to me.
All right, so there's a little bit of pushback there, strictly personnel. All right, I understand. My thought process on this is you do the side-by-side comparison, and I'm kind of in the why not us? Why can't it be Virginia Tech? That's the team that catches lightning in the bottle. So you're going more with the Oregon State made their run because of their personnel, and you're giving reasons as to why that could be on the Virginia Tech side. It would just look different. All right, Ryan, you're on the other. You're kind of on Julian's side. Heading into break there. Learning hearing all the numbers that I'm throwing your way. Did I change your mind? Are you a little bit more optimistic, or are you on Julian's side? There's still some gray area there that we got to wiggle out through.
This is why it does give me a little bit more hope. I'm looking at their schedule now. They won 9 of their last 11. Oregon State did last year. This is a team that earlier in the season had losses to Portland, and it wasn't looking good for them in that season, but they really turned it on late in the postseason and found their identity. Did Virginia Tech find its identity the other night? Maybe I'm not going to say they're going to hit 18 threes again, but maybe that was that moment where they kicked it into gear and figured it out. And listen, the ACC, I'm not going to sit here and say Virginia Tech's going to win the ACC, but do I think it's that far-fetched? Not really. This is a pretty wide open conference. It looks like, Wake Forest and Notre Dame sit with right next to Duke right now, which obviously is probably the favorite to win the conference. But I'm not going to sit here and say Duke's incredibly, unbeatable. They're obviously very good. They have a great basketball team, a lot of good NBA prospects, but I don't think the ACC is all that. It's very competitive because, a lot of teams are evenly matched. You see Wake Forest and Notre Dame and Duke at the top, but you've got teams that compete. I mean, Virginia Tech has taken down took down Notre Dame. So, they've been able to beat arguably the best team in the ACC other than Duke. So I think this is where, Virginia Tech goes into a stretch of winnable games and, they come out, like you said, Dan, winning 7 of them. I think there is a lot of optimism to have. But again, if they go out against Georgia Tech and lay an egg, I think you got to start thinking, maybe this just isn't it. But I think Virginia Tech has found something that works, and they have found a lot of team chemistry. So I think, that's something to keep an eye on. I definitely think it's a good comparison.
All right, so I've definitely swayed you a little bit more than Julian. One thing, I just looked this up while Ryan was talking. The luck thing for KenPom. I have no idea how it's calculated, but I know it's been amongst discussions regarding this team's success, or rather more their failures this year. Virginia Tech is the 6th unluckiest team, according to KenPom, in America. They're 353rd. They are ahead of teams like Marist, Eastern Kentucky, Northwestern, Colgate, and UC Santa Barbara. Not good basketball teams. Compare that to Oregon State last year, who was 40th in the country as the most lucky. So they had more luck on their side, or just rather some more favorable matchups compared to Virginia Tech so far in this year. I think, to me, that just points to this Virginia Tech team. I think this Virginia Tech team is better than last year's Oregon State team, but Oregon State team just got hot. They're that stereotypical team that just got hot, and you really can't explain why they made it as far as they did, but they did. So that's really where I'm trying to, pull from here. Colburn, do you guys have any, opinions on all the numbers I just laid out here before we get to the end of our show here today?
I think it's nice numbers, and it's a really good thing to kind of look at. I just think that when I'm honestly, here's where I am with this. I kind of agree with Ryan in the sense of the ACC is kind of wide open this year. Duke's good, but they aren't really dominant. But I'm not saying that that's going to be like if VT wins the ACC. That's just not going to happen. And if it is, it's probably like a 1% chance right now. It's just more the sense that like anybody can beat anybody. That's what it is. And I think that is like what the ACC is. I think it's one of the weakest conferences, at least of those Power Five. I'd probably put the Big East over it. Or actually, I would definitely put the Big East over it. So I think Virginia Tech can make that run, but I think that's kind of where it factors in. Like the Oregon State run that they had, that's really kind of like the correlation where it's like, I can see that and I can fully believe you. It's just, as also Ryan brought up earlier, we just can't choke against Georgia Tech like we did against Boston College. We thought we'd have a run.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it does make me feel a little better because, as you said, I mean, Virginia Tech has more favorable numbers in terms of KenPom, and the luck from KenPom obviously plays a role in that as well. I'm not sure how much the selection committee would look at that per se, but And then I've also been looking at Oregon State's schedule, and they played well, but the Pac-12 isn't exactly as strong a conference as the ACC, in my opinion. And I think Virginia Tech, despite not maybe winning as many games or not playing as well as Oregon State did, Oregon State had a 500 record in their conference. And I just don't see Virginia Tech finishing with a similar record unless they just catch fire out of nowhere at the end of the season. But I think Tech has played about as well as them despite being in a tougher conference. And so it does make me feel a little better.
That is the thing, though. Like, yeah, obviously, right now, maybe you're not seeing them as a team that finishes 500. I'm just trying to sell to some people, hey, this is the game that can get them to 500. And if they get to 500 in the ACC, hey, maybe we're looking at this, becoming a new expectation for the postseason. Let's go one more time around. Brian wants to pitch something in, and then, we want to talk a little bit of football today. So, because of course, it's the story of the weekend on the national scale. So, Kobe's got something for us to close out. So, Ryan, throw it over to you, and then I think we can talk a little championship game nonsense to wrap up this Monday.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, and I think I speak for Colbjorn as well. When I say I don't think it's impossible for Virginia Tech to win the ACC, I didn't watch that game on Saturday, and then I immediately just thought Virginia Tech would win the ACC. I've had that opinion since the beginning of the year, and even watching these games, because the KenPom numbers are good because Virginia Tech usually plays well in game, but they're not good at closing games out, and that goes with being one of the unluckiest teams in the country. And this is not a good year for the conference. So that's where I stand. That's where I've had that opinion for most of the year, even watching this team go up and down. March is March at the end of the day. So crazier things have happened, and I think Virginia Tech getting out of a weak year in the ACC, holding the trophy is not the furthest fetched thing that will happen in March. So I just wanted to clarify that and not say that, I just watched one Virginia Tech win and I'm like, oh, Virginia Tech can win the ACC. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's pretty much wide open.
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. At the beginning of the season, I think a lot of us had at least some level of expectation. I knew that my expectation was, hey, let's get back to a double bye. Let's get back to another top 4 finish in the conference. Let's get that double bye, and let's be, a solid contender come March. But, that's more than probably not off the table. I think it's mathematically impossible at this point. And from there, oh man, what was the other? There was another point I wanted to make on that. You know what? I lost it. Oh well. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. All right, I want to give it to Colby because we had some football played yesterday, and he wants to talk a little bit about the NFC and AFC championship games. We have our Super Bowl matchup. Colby, is this more about the Super Bowl, or is this more about the games from a day ago?
Well, I would really like to focus on the Super Bowl matchup a little bit, but I definitely think we can have a really good discussion about how the Bengals and Rams performances in those games will feed into their eventual performance in said Super Bowl. So I feel like we can break down the championship games first if you want.
If you want to focus more on the matchups, because I think what I want to do tomorrow, I want to talk about these games a little bit more in depth. So I think we can roll with tomorrow's crew on that. If you want to focus on the two teams that we're going to see in 2 weeks, I'm all for it.
Oh, well, absolutely then. Let's take a look at the Bengals first. They're kind of a team that no one expected. And as a Steelers fan, I feel weird saying that I'm kind of proud of them. They're just a team that doesn't see that sort of postseason success. The Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase connection has taken the league by storm. It might be the generational connection for years to come in the same way that Montana to Rice was. That's high praise, I'm aware, but who's to say that won't be it? They've been amazing this season. So how are we feeling about the Bengals after this extraordinary run to the Super Bowl that they've made?
Well, I'm going to start out here. I'm not really going to talk a lot in this segment, I think, because, again, we're going to get my thoughts and Ryan's thoughts tomorrow on more of the game. So I want to give it to our 3 other contributors today. So I'm going to throw it to the one guy. I'm going to inflate his ego a little bit more. I'm seeing him smirking. So a couple weeks ago on our test show, this man decided to just step up to the plate and called a shot. He pulled a Babe Ruth and sent it 450 dead center. So I'm going to throw it over to our call screener of the day, Colbjorn Bergstrom, who predicted that this team not only would be in the Super Bowl, but would win the Super Bowl. So we're focusing on the AFC champion, Colbjorn Bergstrom. The floor is yours. Gloat, do whatever you got to do. You called it, and I'm furious, but you called it. So I'm going to give you this space.
I don't know how much gloating, quote unquote, it's going to be or how hype I'm going to be. I know I'm going to talk about it on the podcast whenever that comes out. But what I am going to say is this, no matter how much I was very concerned, whether before the playoffs started that the Packers were going to win or the Bengals, I've been confident enough in this Bengals team ever since probably a couple months ago that they were going to go far. I just didn't know until really the playoffs started that they were going to make the Super Bowl. I went with that. And that was kind of my guarantee of when I talked about it on both here and the pod that the Bengals were going to make the Super Bowl. This team's been hot for a while. The game didn't quite go how I thought it was going to personally go. I thought it was going to be an absolute shootout and one of the best games that we've seen in a long time, just because I thought that no matter what, Burrow was going to get the ball somewhere. But this is a really hot team. And I think the one thing that I can pitch to you guys to talk about for this week is the fact that Jalen Ramsey is an incredible cornerback, and all credit to Los Angeles for getting to where they are. A team we thought in the preseason was going to be great, and then we just kind of didn't trust throughout the rest of the season. But no matter how good Jalen Ramsey is, you can't cover Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd all at the same time with Jalen Ramsey. It's just not possible. You can't have one person on 3 guys. So this is going to be an incredible matchup. And other than the fact that Burrow is probably going to get decimated by Donald and Miller, it doesn't matter because he seems like he can take anything. So I'm happy that I was as confident in the Bengals as I was, and I hope that they can have a great showing in the Super Bowl because this is a team that's going to be great for years to come.
No, I like that. And I like that you brought up T. Higgins because, I mean, Colby's not wrong. The Burrow to Chase thing is special. But T. Higgins is a stud, man. His progression in year 2 is really, really good. That 2019 draft class from receivers is just looking better and better each game, it seems like, that 2020 class. All right, let's go to our co-host for the Julian Furman.
Yeah, I think for this Bengals team, really, they really are not supposed to be here, especially when you were canvassing them at the start of the season. You saw they made a lot of upgrades to their infrastructure on defense, and I thought their offense could be like maybe a top 10, top 12 unit in the league. But really, just the way Joe Burrow is confident in everything he does as a quarterback and his decision making. And you saw on Sunday when the Kansas City Chiefs decided to play 2-man, Burrow just scrambled because that's there. When you're against man coverage in the playoffs and you have those 2 high safeties, it means either you have to make perfect throws or you have to scramble. That's what the defense is daring you to do. And Burrow took what the defense gave him. He really did a great job beating Chris Jones and a bunch of the pass rushers for the Chiefs. Making those hero plays. That's what he did, and that's what he's been doing the entire season, especially in the playoffs. They've just been doing just enough to win. And I also want to give credit to their defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. Really had a great feel for everything that the Chiefs were running in the second half. I mean, this was just a clinic when it comes to 1, quarterbacking, and 2, just calling a great defense and getting the most out of your players. So,
No, I like that you shout out the Bengals D, and Burrow's escapability is incredible. I mean, it's crazy, but we talk about the Bengals O-line against the Titans giving up 9 sacks. The Bengals offensive line gave up more pressures against Kansas City than against Tennessee. It's just that Kansas City couldn't bring Burrow down. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Ryan, do you have any thoughts, or do you want to save our opinions for tomorrow so we can be a little bit more fleshed out?
I just want to say I do want to save a lot of my thoughts for the coming days, but I think I mentioned this previously. This might be, we talked about who we wanted to see lose, and I think it was pretty unanimous with Jimmy G. But this is the most likable Super Bowl matchup of quarterbacks I think I've seen in quite a long time. I mean, these 2 guys are impossible not to root for. I honestly don't know who I'm going to root for in the game. I mean, Joe Burrow is obviously one of the best college quarterbacks we've ever seen, and he's one of the most likable guys in the league. And so is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, his big thing for most of the year has been he wants to play in meaningful games. He knows what he can do outside of a place like Detroit. He can win a team a Super Bowl. And I think that's, him finally getting the opportunity. It's a really cool story because, it comes full circle because a year ago yesterday, they had just signed Matthew Stafford. So, the immediate impact he's had, I think, really solidifies him as one of the great quarterbacks in the NFL. And, there's a lot of likable players on both sides. I will say maybe the deciding factor for me is not a big Jalen Ramsey fan. And I think he had a layup last night that he dropped. I found that pretty funny. Right off his chest, 2, one for each team. San Francisco had one right in the basket too that they dropped that maybe was turning point in that game, but I'll save that for tomorrow. But like I said, it's just 2 likable guys, 2 likable coaches. I think Sean McVay probably would have faced a lot of heat if the Rams lost that game last night. He had a couple questionable coaching decisions, but nonetheless, he's a likable guy, and so is Zach Taylor. So it's going to be a really fun Super Bowl matchup. I would have never at the beginning of the season, I don't think anybody did except maybe Colbjorn. He's a big believer in the Bengals. Said at the beginning of the year that the Bengals would be in the Super Bowl. I mean, quarterback coming off an ACL tear, it's hard enough just to come back from that and play football, nonetheless winning or get to a Super Bowl. So incredibly impressive stuff. And I'll end it off by saying this is the best postseason of NFL football I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, not a single blowout, every game down to the wire. just really, really top level football, and you got the most out of every team in the playoffs. So great year, and it's just a shame that we had to wait 2 weeks to get another game in.
What are you talking about? The Pro Bowl is coming up. No, I'm kidding. I will push back on that, though. I mean, I don't think I need to see 2-7 matchups again. Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Philadelphia, Tampa Bay was not entertaining to me. But no, I will agree. It's definitely very, very entertaining. All right, we're coming up against it. We got less than 5 minutes to go here. So, Colby, why don't you introduce us to the other team, the NFC champion, the Rams, and then we can get our thoughts and get out of here.
Right. I mean, we have the LA Rams, and I'm looking at their schedule here. I feel a little proud of myself. I did predict the Rams would be the representative of the NFC. I'm looking at their schedule here, and they did come a bit unglued through weeks 9 through, let's say, 12. Tennessee, bad loss there at home. San Francisco, big blowout against San Francisco. They didn't play well against San Francisco at all this season, despite obviously beating them last night. And then the Green Bay loss. I mean, this team definitely lost its footing, but gathered it again, despite, having a sort of an easier schedule, but still managed to pull it together, played really well in the postseason, blew Arizona out, managed to hold on to beat Tampa Bay, and then getting some revenge against San Francisco, coming back from 10 points. Obviously, a lot of talent on the roster. Jalen Ramsey is a great cornerback, although he might be the only elite guy in that secondary. Obviously, we talked about how all of the weapons the Bengals have. And then what can you say about the offense? You have Stafford and all the receivers he has. You have Akers coming back from injury to shore up the running back depth. So how are we feeling about the Rams as the team that I personally see as the favorite in this game?
Yeah, I really think that this team has all of the ingredients you look at when it comes to Super Bowl champion. Obviously, they have Aaron Donald, who's probably the best player in the NFL. And then you have all of these different guys who can create matchup advantages, like loaded throughout the roster. Obviously, I mentioned Donald. Von Miller's a phenomenal edge rusher, Hall of Famer. Jalen Ramsey is a guy who you can put on one wide receiver and not really worry about getting beat by that guy for the rest of the game. And then you have on offense, Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp, two guys. I mean, really what the Rams offense was on Saturday was, our guys are just better than your guys. We're going to attack your corners. And, Beckham really made a fool of Emmanuel Mosley a couple of times yesterday. And I thought he dominated his matchup in Kupp as well. So, and I really think Stafford's played at a really high level in these playoffs. He really did outplay Brady. If it weren't for some lucky fumbles, that game really wouldn't have been close at all. So yeah, I mean, I think Stafford's been as close to perfect as you can be throughout these playoffs. Obviously, he had the mistake that they didn't capitalize on yesterday with Jaquiski Tart, but other than that, he really has been playing at an ultra high level. So yeah, I mean, the Rams should be favored in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really solid team. Again, this is a team that we thought even before they got Von Miller that they might be able to reach the Super Bowl and that there's a lot of high aspirations for them. My only concern is still this with them. Matthew Stafford has been incredible throughout the playoffs. Like, don't get it wrong. He's been incredible. But this team has still struggled. And they have been struggling in primetime games all throughout this season. I think they barely beat the Ravens. Obviously, they lost both games to San Francisco. They split the series with Arizona. Losing to Green Bay, amongst others, and that was also slightly translated into the playoffs. Other than their blowout of the Cardinals at home, they almost let Tampa Bay come back and win the game, and Matthew Stafford stopped themselves from looking like the Atlanta Falcons back from 6 years ago now? Gosh, that's so long ago. But then also on top of that, San Francisco led that game for most of the time. Like let's not forget that from this weekend. San Francisco was up 17-10 for a while, and then LA was just able to pull away a little bit. So, though this team is still really good and has incredible personnel, don't think they're just going to run away with this game, even though they're going to be at home like the Buccaneers were at SoFi. It's not going to matter. This is still going to be a very close and very entertaining game, even though they're probably the second most balanced team that's been in the Super Bowl over the past long time, other than the Buccaneers from last year.
All right, there you have it. I think that's a good place to end it today. Thank you to Julian, Colby, and Colby Horn for filling out our contributor roles today. Good job today, guys. Good show on a Monday. We'll be back tomorrow, talk a little bit more football. So till then, take care, stay safe. Thanks for listening, everyone.